Today we're going to be sewing together the skirt pieces of our dirndl skirt. We're also going to be prepping our waistband and button placket with interfacing. So let's get started. So I have my skirt pieces ready to go. I cut my skirt out more to this cutting diagram, which has the pieces going this direction, and I actually cut out 3 because my fabric was pretty narrow. It is a 43-inch quilting cotton. If it was a 60-inch, I probably could have gotten away with just 1 or just 2. If you cut your skirt along this scope pattern so that your skirt was one big huge piece, you can skip this part and go right on to the interfacing. So I have 3 skirt pieces to sew together, and we're going to be using a 1/2 inch seam, or if you feel more comfortable you can use a 5/8 of an inch seam. Because we're doing a really big gathered skirt, it doesn't even really matter. If we were doing a more fitted skirt, we want to make sure that we have used whatever seam allowance we've drafted into the skirt. Okay? So I'm going to line up my edges, and we're going to put it through the sewing machine. So if you want to, you can pin it to help keep it from moving. Just make sure you're not sewing over the pins. And if you have a directional print, you want to make sure your print is going the same direction. Oh, those birds are excited. Anyways, my print is non-directional, so it doesn't really matter which way is up. You can't tell. So, I've got my machine on. Go ahead and put that on our seam allowance. Actually, I think I'm going to do 5/8 because I have a selvage with some print on it, and it looks like that selvage is about 5/8. So I want to make sure that I don't have any of this print on the selvage coming through at the seam of my skirt. Like I said before, that little 1/8 of an inch is not going to matter on our about 3-yard skirt. So we're going to start sewing. Whoops, it would help if I threaded my machine. Got all excited there. Actually, I'll probably have to change some settings. Here we go. Alright, we are ready to rock and roll now. Alright. We're going to go ahead and start sewing. We're going to do a little bit of a back tack at the beginning to hold that seam in, and then we're just going to sew right along our 5/8 of an inch or 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we'll just back tack here at the end. So you can see down here that my skirt pieces don't quite exactly match up. There's one that's slightly longer than the other, so I didn't cut exactly perfectly. That's totally fine. We'll take care of that in the hem. We'll keep the nice lined up edge to use as the edge that we gather to our waistband. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is we want to finish our seam so that it doesn't come unraveled. Alright, so I'm going to talk about 3 basic seam finish options that you have that would be great for a beginner sewer. If you're a more advanced sewer, you know what seam finish you want to do, go for it. One of them is to use pinking shears, and these are pinking shears. You can see they have the little jaggedy teeth on them. Alright, and what these do is it makes these little triangles that cuts on the bias of the fabric, and the bias of fabric will not unravel, so that is going to protect your seam from unraveling in the wash. And a lot of vintage garments are finished with pinking shears. One of my personal favorite seam finishes is taking your seam allowance, folding it over, and then you sew down along here, along the seam. Alright, and then when you press it over, you have a nice folded edge, and that raw edge is going to stay tucked underneath the seam allowance, and it's not going to wear as fast. Now lastly, if you cut out your fabric like I did, you're going to have the selvage at the edge of your seam allowance, which is peachy because the selvage will also not unravel. So I don't need to do any seam finishes to my seams because this nice tightly woven selvage is not going to go anywhere. So those are 3 really basic options that you can use. So next we're going to attach the third panel, if you need to the other side. So I'm going to do that and I will be right back. Alright, the next thing we want to do is press open our seam allowance. We take our trusty iron, make sure you have it on the correct setting for your fabric. So mine is cotton, so it's on cotton setting. Be using lots of steam. And we're just going to fold open our seam allowance and start pressing. So there you go. That's how you press your seam allowance, and you just want to finish pressing all of your seam allowances open. Alright, next on our to-do list is to interface. So I've got my waistband piece, my one piece of interfacing to go on the waistband. I'm going to go ahead and take my pattern off here. And we're only going to need one waistband to interface. Get rid of the other one. I'm just going to go real quick and give this piece a nice press so that we are not interfacing in any wrinkles. Usually, even if I was good and ironed my fabric really well before I cut, it's gotten a little wrinkly by this time. Alright. So I have my fusible interfacing. Now fusible interfacing has 2 sides. There's one side that has a little dots of glue on it. Then there's the other side which has the interfacing on it. You always want the little glue dots to be on the wrong side of the fabric. Alright? And then the side with the interfacing, that will be the side that your iron touches. Otherwise you'll get your interfacing glued to your iron. Just going to line this up. Alright, and then we are going to press with our iron. So when we do this, we want to use lots and lots of steam. Go slowly so we can melt all those little glue dots. You should be able to see when you're pressing when those little glue dots have melted, because you'll actually won't be able to see the little glue dots anymore. Okay? And then you can see my pieces didn't quite match up perfectly, so I'm just going to trim that excess interfacing off. You can do this before you fuse, but I find it to be very fiddly. And I usually have to do it again afterwards anyways. Bit on the other side. Rachel Bird, hi! You're on candy camera. Go away. Shh. I have 3 birds flying around my house right now, and they're all terribly, terribly interested in my iron. So, pardon those birds. Alright, and then once I've trimmed, I like to go back and give one more press, because sometimes where you've trimmed on the edges, that'll pull the interfacing off a little bit, which just makes everything extra stuck on. Alrighty. And then we are going to do the same thing with our 2 button plackets, except they are both going to be interfaced.